Hello. This is one of the videos that ACBL is producing to explain the changes in the new laws that go into effect in September 2017. I'm Tournament Director Doug Grove. With me is Tournament Director Matt Smith, who is also a member of the ACBL Laws Commission. The topic for this video is Law 75, entitled Mistaken Explanation or Mistaken Call. This law has always been designed to differentiate between the two and to help us determine whether we have a mistaken explanation in the auction, which is an infraction by law, or a mistaken call, which is not. One of the issues have been deciding which of these we have if the situation is gray. What do the laws say about this? Is this a change?
Not really too much of a change. I'd say it's more of a clarification. We are still to presume as directors when there's this sort of thing happens, when we're called upon to decide whether there was a mistaken call or a mistaken explanation, we're still to presume mistaken explanation instead, rather than mistaken call in the absence of evidence to the contrary. That reference is now in Law 21. It used to be in Law 75. So that hasn't changed.
Okay. Law 75 has added a Section D, which is to help assist us in the situation of undiscussed methods.
Yes.
Particularly in the latter part of an auction. What does it say about partnership agreements in terms of general responsibilities?
Well, it says that, well, D2 says, not directly answering your question, I suppose, but it says it is a condition of any partnership agreement that both players possess the same mutual understanding about what a bid means.
Well, let's take that and try to define what's an infraction here.
Okay.
Is this saying that it is an infraction to have a misunderstanding about your methods?
No, it's not an infraction to have a misunderstanding. That's part of bridge. People misunderstand their partner's bids all the time, and it usually gets them a bad score. And when it happens to get them a good score, the law isn't concerned if there are no other issues involved.
Is it an infraction not to have an agreement in a more complex auction?
By ACBL regulations in common situation, it is, by conditions of contest. But as you say, in complicated auctions, where it's not unreasonable to expect people not to have discussed it, no, it's not an infraction. We're allowed to be deep into an auction, and you as a bridge player are allowed to make a bid that you hope I will understand by the logic that led you to it. And if I don't misunderstand it, that's not an infraction. We had a misunderstanding there. It's not an infraction that we didn't have an understanding there. And if it leads to a good result or a bad result, again, the score should stand, barring anything else going on.
Okay, so we've added 75D, but we said it's not an infraction if we don't have an agreement in common situations, and it's not an infraction to have a misunderstanding. So what is the infraction this is referring to?
The infraction it's referring to is if you tell the opponents you have an agreement that you don't, that's essentially it, or if you misstate what your real agreement is. So as I say, it said, as I mentioned earlier, in the law D2, it said it is a condition of any partnership agreement that both players possess the same mutual understanding. And it goes on to say, and it is an infraction to describe an agreement where the same mutual understanding does not exist. So you think your 4-club bid means something. I tell the opponents it means something that you don't think we'd agreed to. It doesn't really matter. We clearly don't have the same mutual understanding of the bid. I have given them misinformation by telling them what the bid means. It may just be what I thought the bid meant. It's still an infraction.
If you were to clarify it instead by saying it does not come up, it's not something we've discussed, and that is the truth, does that then satisfy the situation it's no longer an infraction?
Yes.
Okay.
The law is also trying to make a distinction between what the opponents are entitled to know in those cases. So sometimes we get drawn into the idea that you think 4 clubs means diamonds, and I think 4 clubs means clubs. We actually have no agreement at all. Well, after the director's questioned them, done whatever he needs to do, it's clear that you thought it meant this, I thought it meant that, we'd never talked about it. What are the opponents entitled to in that situation? They are entitled to the explanation, no agreement. So if we end up deciding where this auction would have gone, we don't have to guess, well, it meant diamonds, and what would they have done if they'd known it meant diamonds? Or my side clubs, what would they have done if they'd known it was clubs? Obviously, they did one or the other because they got some information. We're supposed to analyze it in terms of what would have happened if they were told there is no agreement. That's what they're entitled to.
Okay, thank you.